And we're back. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show. And I am joined here today by the president of Quist Valuation, www.quistvaluation.com, Shina Culberson. And Shina, thank you for joining me here today.
Great to be here with you, Wally.
And we've been talking about the transferable value metric. And folks, if you've been listening this season, and I encourage you to go back if you haven't listened to some of the other episodes where we talk about this. Specifically, there's one with Lee Benson where we talk about understanding your most important number. Well, how do you measure that number? That's why we're here talking with Shina today, right? We talked with Chris Snyder of the Exit Planning Institute, and how do you create your perfect exit? How do you walk to your own perfect destiny? Well, you start by tracking your most important number, which is the transferable value metric. And so Shina, one of the things we were talking about in break here was it's important to measure these things, but then what do you do next? And you shared with me that there are many growth and value drivers, growth levers, value levers, whatever you want to look at, that you can tweak, change, focus on, and really evolve the business so that it is a lot more valuable. And I'd like to hear your perspective on what do you see out in the marketplace that's working? Where do what are these things? Why do they matter? Just take us through some scenarios.
Yeah, so, over 40 years of being a valuation specialist and having looked at thousands of companies, there are a handful of themes that are consistent across every company. It's from large to small. It's very surprising, right? You would think, a billion-dollar company does not have the same issues as a million-dollar company, revenue company.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, there are some similarities, right?
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, the three biggest themes that either drive or detract from value, one is around customer capital.
Okay.
So truly, what does that mean? That means, is that business dependent on any one customer for ongoing business? And if that customer were to leave today, what would be the impact of that business on that? Right. So that's easy. That kind of like, customer concentration. I think most business owners understand that that's a risk. But then,
actually, I would challenge you on that a little bit. We have someone who we're in talks with right now, and here's how the conversation went. Hey, Wally, we just had our best year ever. And you know how that happened? We landed a whale client that now represents 60% of our overall revenue. And you know what my response was? Hair on fire. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how bad that is. And they looked at me like my eyes were sideways. They didn't know what to do about that. And so I don't know that. And that's why I'm pausing right here. And I think that's the importance of the conversation we're having right now is I don't know that people actually realize that creating that customer concentration risk can actually, yes, from a cash flow perspective, short term is great, but in the overall scheme of things, you might end up being a slave to your business because of it. So thoughts?
Yeah. Well, every business that's in a growth stage at some point is probably going to have some sort of customer concentration, right?
Yep.
And those are great milestones to have achieved. Like, I've got this great client, big client. I have a lot of clients that serve like government and federal agencies, and obviously they're very concentrated.
Right.
Government, right? But the key is, now that you have this whale of a client, what is the business doing to secure that client, either through a multi-year contract or understanding the future needs of that client and where you fit in to that client's ongoing needs into year 2 and 3.
Yep.
And then how do you replicate that interaction or that service or product that you're providing that client to another prospect?
Yeah.
Right? And can you leverage that? So these things aren't always just fixed overnight, but have a long-term sort of strategy behind how do you mitigate customer concentration.
Yeah, and I want to build on that a little bit because, if it, and this is really great because you have a lot of expertise that we don't have because we serve different clientele in a lot of areas, and so if we see the customer concentration risk in one regard, if I'm really good at serving, the federal government of the United States, it's not like I can go out and shop that to China, right? That's not really an option, right? And I can't go to the other two or three way. Hey, Russia, would you like the same? No, that just isn't how it works, right? It's a different game. But I think implicit in that. To what you were talking about is there are ways to essentially embed yourself and also just lock down these contracts for long term, which starts to bring us into the next level of capital, which is building a structure of your business so that you're part of the fabric of these customers that you're serving, and in many times almost intertwined with them. Is that am I kind of poking in the right direction there?
Yeah, that structural capital is all about the way that I simply think about it, systems and processes.
Okay. Yep.
How do you build a system and process that is transparent to all of the company stakeholders, so all your employees?
Yep.
That will help the business create a repeatable, high quality product and service.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
So with those structures in place, so let's go back. We can build on this concept, right? I've got this big well of a client.
Mm-hmm.
In order to maintain that big well of a client, I'm going to have to make sure that I have I can deliver this service or product on a repeatable basis, meeting their big needs each and every year. And then I want to replicate that for the next prospect that comes in. So in order to do that, you have to build a structural foundation within the organization. But honestly, what happens a lot of times with business owners, and I sometimes fail at this too, is we get so busy being in the business that we forget to work on the business. And nobody loves documenting processes and systems. That's not fun. What's fun is slaying the dragon and getting that next big contract, right?
Yep.
That's the part. So, but it's important in terms of if you're trying to build transferable value and you're trying to tell a future buyer of your business, hey, this is transparent, repeatable, expected cash flow and revenue from these clients, and here's our process around it. You have to be able to document that and show them that, yes, we've thought about this. We've got a system in place to make this a repeatable situation.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate you building on this concept and really just sharing it openly too, because at the very outset of this section of our discussion today, you were sharing how no matter what the business size is, because you've seen them all at this point, the stuff that always works, and the stuff that's always broken is always broken. And isn't it interesting? Because all these businesses are run by, wait for it, human beings, right? And so it's exactly as you said. The entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are notorious adrenaline junkies, and literally to start to decentralize yourself from that business, you almost literally have to take all the adrenaline elsewhere and look at this thing as its own business. And we actually encourage people. We know that we've had a breakthrough when we can help somebody look at that business, and oftentimes, we'll talk about collaborators and stuff like that in a few minutes, but as soon as we know that person is looking at their business as a portfolio company rather than the thing they go to work at, we know that we've had a huge breakthrough. And so kind of coming into that human aspect of the business, if we've built customer capital and we started to build that structure around a place where people can thrive, how do you see the whole human capital part going? Because you have a great team. I've hung out with them, right? They're super smart. They're super capable. They're awesome. You know how to do this. So what's that look like?
Yeah. So for us, when we go in and we're doing evaluation, we simply we start with this question. And the question is, how is your management team incentivized.
Wow. Yep.
Period. So, incentives can be in the form of bonuses. They can be in form of stock options. They can be, or equity, phantom equity. But generally, we like to understand, does everybody understand what their goals and objectives are for the year? And are those the actions that you're driving for those individuals, are they tied to their financial incentives within the company?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. You think, oh, that sounds kind of simple and obvious, right? That you have goals tied to financial incentives. But again, big or small, it doesn't matter the size of the company. Time and time again, we will hear, yeah, there's bonuses. We pay bonuses. Yeah, it depends upon the performance. But what are those? Everybody has a specific goal and objectives, right? Or a couple. They know what they're shooting for, right? At least the management team.
Right.
Well, they did,
but maybe not.
We haven't quite brought that up to this year's goals and objectives. So
yeah,
it's about building that human capital foundation that then will help all these other structural issues, customer issues in the business flourish. And it's really about making sure that business owner, if you are a sole business owner, that you really, it sounds counterintuitive, but really making yourself obsolete.
Right.
Business.
It always, the first time you hear that, it sounds like the most counterintuitive thing ever, and it's also the path to maximizing your wealth event if you choose to go that route. And so
that's right.
Yeah, and you and I could have a follow-up and probably go on for days about all of the inner game of that type of stuff. We clearly can't go there today, but it's I love that you touched on that, because that becomes very important in something we're going to talk about here in this next section, which is, okay, if valuation is a practice, right, and growing the value as a practice and really a process over a period of time, then who else needs to be helping bring that forth? And so, tell us one more time where we can find you, and we'll be back here after a short break.
Yeah, so come check us out, Quist Valuation, at www.quistvaluation.com.
All right, thank you, Shina. Folks, you're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show. As always, you can go to exitology.com, click Contact Us, ask us a question, and we will answer it on an upcoming episode. All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes. See you later.